Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Alright, so I am briefly back for the time being. I'm just going to talk about the Super Bowl today because, I don't see any point covering anything else. Yeah. I could bore you with the same thing I always keep saying, but I'm not going to do that. So, okay. We're going to start off with the Super Bowl. So, obviously, Chiefs won, Mahomes, MVP again. This is... I do think this establishes them as a dynasty. 3 and 5 years. Very similar to what the Patriots did, and they were considered a dynasty in the early 2000s when they came back and had a second one. I don't know if the Chiefs will do that, but... yeah. And, it's crazy. People are already getting tired of the Chiefs winning, but I think they're forgetting this is kind of how it goes. There's always... we just got finished with an era of the same team as being on top. Now, the Patriots won more than most of them, but just because... the way I see it, just because the Chiefs are going to win more often doesn't mean there's not still a variety. And this may not make sense what I'm saying right now, but I think, you got Burrow in the Bengals, Mahomes in the Chiefs, Purdy in the Niners, Hurts in the Eagles, Lamar and the Ravens, and Josh Allen in the Bills. They all seem... They've been top of the league for the last few years, and I think they're going to continue to be that way for quite a long time. And to me, this is very similar to last era with Brady and the Pats, Peyton Manning and the Colts and Broncos, Drew Brees and the Saints, Aaron Rodgers the Packers, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, and the Steelers and Roethlisberger. All those guys were at the top of the league for quite some time. And, again, just like the Chiefs, the Patriots won a lot more than the other guys, but there were still plenty of years that the Pats didn't make it to the end. Big Ben and the Steelers, they won 2 Super Bowls. Wilson, they made back-to-back with the Seahawks. He won 1. Rodgers won a Super Bowl. Breeze won a Super Bowl. What else? Peyton Manning won 2. So there's still variety in the league, in spite of Mahomes and the Chiefs being seemingly unstoppable. And let's not act like the Chiefs haven't been beaten in years past. And I know 2 of those times were Tom Brady. But I don't see a reason why the Bills, Bengals, the Eagles, if they get their act right, I'm a little suspicious because of their... I do feel like a lot of their success had to do with Shane Steichen, but, I don't see a reason why the Bills, Ravens, Bengals, Niners, I feel like I named everyone that could possibly beat the Chiefs. But all those teams, I don't see a reason why they can't beat them. You got Josh Allen and the Bills went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs twice now in the playoffs. Unfortunately, they've lost both times, but if they can make Josh Allen better in the final moments of the game, they have a lot of talent. They have everything right. They got a great quarterback, great coach. Those are the 2 main things. They have a supportive defense, and they have weapons on the team. That's what you need for a Super Bowl team. So there's no reason the Bills can't make it there. I'm sure there will be a year where, there was a year where Peyton Manning beat Tom Brady and eventually won the Super Bowl in 2007. The same thing can happen, or no, that was 2006, I believe. Oh, no, it was 2007. 2008 was the Patriots losing to the Giants. But anyway, if Peyton Manning, who seems like he couldn't beat Tom Brady early in his career, he managed to get over the hump, I can see Josh Allen doing the same thing. Then you got Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts is talented. He's established that. But he hasn't been successful without Shane Steichen as his offensive coordinator. And some people may not think that that's a notable thing. I do. Because I don't think Nick Sirianni is a great coach without Shane Steichen being his offensive coordinator. So we're going to have to see. But I mean, last year, did the Eagles not go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? So I mean, if they were able to do that last year, and they can get the coordinator right, and or Nick Sirianni proves me wrong, and he actually is a good coach, he just had to take a year to figure it out, then there's no reason the Eagles can't beat the Chiefs either. They also have a good quarterback. They got a good defense. They have weapons. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. The only question is the coach. So, we'll have to see with that. You got the Ravens. I mean, great coach, John Harbaugh. Great quarterback, 2-time MVP, Lamar Jackson. And you have weapons, in all honesty. Maybe not as great as Mahomes has, but I mean, Lamar Jackson has clearly proven he can win with the offense he has. So, I mean, and Lamar and the Ravens, the Chiefs were in control for most of the game in this year. But I do think they can eventually, like the Bills, potentially get over the hump of the Chiefs. The Niners, they have twice now led the Chiefs after 3 quarters in a Super Bowl with 2 different quarterbacks. And I do think Purdy is more talented and smarter and more accurate than Jimmy G. So, I mean, the Niners, there's no reason they can't beat the Chiefs. They led them through 3 quarters twice. It's just the 4th quarter that always throws them off. And my final one is the Bengals. They literally, last time Burrow was fully healthy, they went toe-to-toe with them in the AFC Championship, and the year before that, they beat them. So, no reason that the Bengals can't beat them again. So there's teams, you may be getting annoyed with the Chiefs winning so often, but there will be years that the Chiefs, there are other contenders. Let's not kid ourselves. The Chiefs aren't unstoppable. So, yeah, there's still a variety in the league, very much. Now let's talk about the losing side of the Super Bowl. I was watching some talk shows today. A lot of them seem to be focusing on who is to blame for the Super Bowl. For the Niners, what's the reason they lost? Who is to blame for that? I don't think I'm crazy thinking that really no one is to blame, in my opinion. I mean, the offense played well. The defense played their hearts out. I mean, they held the Chiefs to 1 touchdown through 4 quarters. The Chiefs only scored 1 touchdown. Everything else was a field goal. So, defense played great. I thought Kyle Shanahan coached very well, and I thought the offense was pretty good. And they didn't have to be great. I mean, the offense, they didn't have to light it up because the defense was lighting it up. I think it was just a well-played game, and Mahomes had a great final drive. Andy Reid did outcoach Kyle Shanahan. But in my opinion, if you were forcing me to blame someone for the loss, I would probably say Kyle Shanahan's choice in overtime to take the ball on offense. But I understand his thought process. I'm not in his mind, but I'm pretty sure what he was thinking was, okay, my defense is pretty gassed because the defense, yes, they shut them down throughout the first three quarters, but on the last four offensive possessions that the Chiefs had, they scored points. So the defense, I think what Kyle Shanahan's thought process was my defense is fatigued. Let's have them rest up a bit, and then my offense. Let's have my offense have a longer drive, and hopefully they score a touchdown. But either way, the defense is resting up, and I think he saw that as beneficial. But what I don't think he considered is he was also giving Mahomes time to breathe as well. And that's something you don't want to do. But I think in my opinion, I would have started I wouldn't have started on offense. I would have done the opposite thing, but I understand his thought process. I don't think it was a dumb decision. I don't think it ultimately cost them the game. I just think it's something they could consider the next time they're in a crucial moment like that. So, I don't think anyone is really to blame for this loss. Not Purdy, not Shanahan, certainly not the defense. But I do think if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm thinking my defense playing well. They're stopping Mahomes for the most part, and this is a good. And even if the Chiefs score, they have a chance to match it. Even if they score, the Niners can come back the next possession and score themselves. So, I would have done the opposite thing, but I don't think it ultimately changed what would have happened. All right, so Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones both said that they would, if the Chiefs weren't the first team to score, they would have went for two in overtime. Now, I haven't quite gotten a grasp of the new rules yet, but it seems like, based on what Mahomes and Chris Jones are saying, had the Niners scored, the Chiefs would have scored and went for two the next possession. Honestly, I'm thinking the Mecole Hardman touchdown was what their 2-point conversion would have been, because it seemed to be a play call set up for a 2-point conversion situation. It honestly was a great play call. I really think it was great coaching both ways throughout the game. Even Kyle Shanahan, even though some might disagree. I think the Niners are in a weird situation. it seems like to beat Mahomes, you need a quarterback that's at least on his level or higher. Like, there's only 2 quarterbacks that have beaten him in the playoffs. That's Tom Brady, who is significantly better than Mahomes, and Joe Burrow, who is about on his level. So, you know, I mean, I like Brock Purdy, but he's nowhere near Mahomes' level. But where the Niners are unique is the Patriots and the Bucks. At the time, they had Brady and Joe Burrow with the Bengals. They didn't have the offensive power that the Niners have. Even the Bucks, when they had all those veteran receivers. I mean, the Niners, they got Trent Williams, CMC, Debo, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Their offense doesn't have... I don't think they have a single hole on offense. So they don't need a crazy quarterback, but they should get one that's at least on Hall of Fame level. And I mean, maybe you don't need a crazy good quarterback to beat Mahomes, because when you think about it, Tom Brady, you know, if a team is coached well enough and has a roster built well enough, you know, you should still come out on top. I mean, Tom Brady has lost to... There's only 2 quarterbacks that have beaten Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. That's Eli Manning and Nick Foles. So, I mean, maybe you don't... Maybe Brock Purdy can be good enough to eventually beat Mahomes, but this year that was not the case. All right. So, this is a big surprise. Patrick Mahomes is favored to win the MVP next year. I mean, I wouldn't bank on this because... I mean, just because you win Super Bowl MVP doesn't mean you're going to win regular season MVP. It's a regular season award. I mean, Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls, but 3 MVPs. And while that's still impressive, I mean, Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning both won more MVPs than Brady, but not as many Super Bowls. So, you know, and I mean, Tom Brady, I would argue, was... I don't think there were... You know, at least I would say 75% of his regular seasons, he was not even the best quarterback in the regular season that year. You know, I think there were a lot of years where Peyton Manning was better than him in the regular season. Rodgers was better, and Peyton Manning was better in the regular season, but it didn't matter because he was better in the playoffs. So, you know, Mahomes, I don't think he's always going to be better in the regular season than a Josh Allen, Lamar, or Joe Burrow. But, you know, he'll always find a way to go deep in the playoffs, the way I'm seeing it. But yeah, I think best bet for MVP next year is probably going to be Josh Allen, or maybe Lamar repeats MVP. I think those guys are going to have pretty good seasons, especially coming off how they ended this one. But it all depends on, you know, injuries, who they lose in the offseason, how free agency goes for their teams, you know. There's a lot of variables. So, Steve Young talked about Purdy on the Dan Patrick show this morning. And, you know, honestly, with Brock Purdy, I think, I mean, I like him. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. I don't think he's... I don't know if I would consider him on the level of... You know, I don't know if I would put him in the top 10. Because, I mean, it's hard to tell if he would do what he's doing in a different system. You know, it's hard to tell if he's another Jimmy G. You know, Jimmy G has done absolutely nothing since leaving Shanahan. And that's definitely not because Shanahan did something wrong. It's because Jimmy G can't succeed with anyone else. But I mean, I think as long as Purdy's with Shanahan and that offense, he'll be successful. And I think he can win a Super Bowl. I don't think Jimmy G would have if he stayed there. Because first of all, Jimmy G's way too injury prone, and also I think Purdy much smarter with the football, much more accurate, a lot better, much better decision maker. But there's even quarterbacks that you might not consider great that I would take over Purdy. Like if I'm a manager, I'm taking Matt Stafford over Purdy, in my opinion. He's won a Super Bowl with a great roster around him. I would probably take Jared Goff as well over Purdy, even though Purdy just beat him in the NFC Championship. But I think Jared Goff, more experienced. He's succeeded with less talent around him than Purdy. I would consider taking Jordan Love over him as well, because of, I think Jordan Love's more athletic and has a higher ceiling than Brock Purdy does. But he's, like I said, it's hard to evaluate because he's only been in one system, and that's, he's only been coached by Kyle Shanahan, who's a top 3, in my opinion, coach in the league. He's a great offensive mind. And, I mean, you can argue the same for Jordan Love, and that's why I said I would consider taking Jordan Love over him. Because, Jared Goff and Matt Stafford, they've succeeded with multiple coaches. Jordan Love has only had Matt LaFleur, who also happens to be an offensive genius in his own right. So, okay. Yeah, I mean, with Purdy and Garoppolo, I would definitely take Purdy over Garoppolo. It's just, I don't know if I would take Purdy. Like, I feel like I can name 10 quarterbacks in the league that I would take over Purdy. There's Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar. I would take Jalen Hurts over Purdy. So that's 6. I would take Stafford. I would take Goff. So now we're at 8. Would it be fair? I'm at 8 right now. Damn, I need 2 more. I do think CJ Stroud has a higher ceiling than Purdy. I don't know. Do I take CJ Stroud? That's tough. All right, at a minimum, I can name 8 people I would take over Purdy. Whereas when Garoppolo was playing, there were definitely 10 quarterbacks I would have taken over him in the year 2020 when he made the Super Bowl. Because when he made the Super Bowl, I was thinking he's like a top 12, maybe top 15 quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo. There are many ways that him and Purdy are similar. Or could be similar. I just mentioned it's very possible. It's very possible Purdy is the same as Jimmy G and he can't succeed anywhere else. But we're not going to know yet. But they both had a similar responsibility where they didn't have to be fantastic because they have so many weapons and a great coach and a great defense around them. But I'm going to stick to my take right now, which is they have Purdy has the same responsibility that Jimmy G had, but he is a more efficient passer. He's more accurate, and he's a better decision maker. All right, so this is our final topic of the day. Like I said, it's going to be shorter because I'm just talking about the Super Bowl today. So this story has been very popular. It's kind of, in my opinion, been blown out of proportion the last few days. So Kyle Juszczyk admitted he didn't know, him and the rest of the Niners, or a lot of the other Niners players, weren't aware of the new overtime rules and didn't quite understand them. It sounds like a big deal. I don't think it is, though, because as long as their coach knew, which Kyle Shanahan did, I don't think it impacted the game at all. I mean, because the winning team didn't even, like, McCole Hardman caught the touchdown. He didn't even know the game was over. Not everyone on the team understood the rules in overtime, but in my opinion, it didn't matter because I know Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan did understand it. So they had proper instruction. Like, I doubt the Niners on that last drive, their defense isn't going to say, oh, well, we probably have another quarter, so we're just going to let them score. I mean, that's what the Niners are going to do. It's not going to change the way they play. It would change maybe the game strategy, but that doesn't matter because the coaches knew that what the overtime rules were. So, yeah, maybe not a great look, but the way I see it, you don't really need to know all the rules. I mean, all McCole Hardman needed to know was the play, because McCole Hardman, like I just said, didn't know the game was over. What he did know, he knew the play call, and he knew he had to catch the ball. That's all he really needed to know. He knew the play was designed for him. He had to catch the ball. He had to run to the end zone. He didn't need to know if the game was over or not. He just knew what he had to do in the moment. And the Niners defense, maybe they didn't know the rules. You know what they didn't know? They knew they had to stop, or at least try to stop the Chiefs from scoring. So, in my opinion, not a huge deal. A little bit blown out of proportion, but players, they can't know everything. I mean, it's like there was a press conference at the beginning of the year where Tua said just one play from the playbook, and he asked the media to repeat it. They couldn't do it. That's because, I don't think a receiver could memorize all those play calls and say it to a huddle in a crowded stadium that's incredibly loud. I think players have responsibilities that coaches don't. Quarterbacks have responsibilities, receivers don't. Like, you're not going to ask a receiver to memorize all 60 plays in the playbook. Same way you're not going to ask players to know every rule to the game of football, because the head coach knows what they're doing. They know what game strategy to use. All right, so we're almost at about 30 minutes here, so I'm just going to close out. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. Again, I'll see you whenever I have time, pretty much. I unfortunately can't give you a guarantee of when that will be. But yeah. If I had to guess, I'll give you a ballpark, probably around spring break. I'll probably have a lot of time on my hands. That'd be my guess. But, yeah, until then, Dylan Miller, Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. Still no Daily Dose of Dylan. Have a good one.